Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 1989 film Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge. And can we all just agree off the bat, it doesn't need to be called Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge. Just call it Phantom of the Mall. It actually would be a much better, more interesting, like mystery-driven film if, in addition to the whole big mystery of who killed Eric, well, killed Eric, we think, for the longest time, but who burned him in essence. You have the mystery of who is the Phantom. You know, they should have just laid out the clues instead of just not only saying it in the title, which is probably the most egregious thing in my opinion, but they say it in dialogue in the beginning of the film too, when they're like, "Oh, it must be Eric." Like, let us, get little clues and then like reveal it close to the end, and then you can have two mystery reveals. That would have been awesome. Would have been a lot better, but this is kind of a so bad it's good film, so I can't complain too much about that stuff, even though I kind of did. So I will be rating this two ways, as just a straight up film in the pantheon of all films, and as a so bad it's good film, because it is so bad it's good. More than anything, though, this film really got me nostalgic for malls and arcades, because there is that arcade scene where Posner, the owner of the mall, his son is stealing coins, which, like, does he need that money? You get the idea that he just does stuff to do stuff. Like, he probably didn't get that much money from it. Like, he just strikes you as one of those dirtbags who just does wrong things just to do wrong things, not because he's actually physically getting anything out of it. It's just the enjoyment. Anyway, directed by Richard Friedman, who also did Death Mask, some episodes of Tales from the Dark Side, Scared Stiff, Doom Asylum, and Baywatch Nights. Because if you didn't remember, there was Baywatch, and then there was Baywatch Nights, which is because Baywatch was so popular, which, why? Why was Baywatch that popular then? I mean, I can make some guesses why, but come on. We weren't that smart back then. Written by Scott Schneid, who produced Silent Night, Deadly Night. So that's awesome. Thank you, Schneid, for that. Tony Michelman, and the story by Frederick R. Ulrich. They don't really have any other writing credits. The cast consisting of big names Morgan Fairchild, Ken Foree, and Pauly Shore, which I gotta be honest, the character of Buzz is my favorite character in the entire film. I wish he would have gotten more screen time. I thought Pauly Shore did a really good job. And this is like Pauly Shore before Pauly Shore in a sense, because the version of Pauly Shore everyone knows, his acting wise, is very like in your face, hyper, over the top. This acting of Buzz is like a little bit of the same type of character, but way toned down. I like him a lot more that way. I thought he did a really good job, and I love Buzz in this. He's a fun character. Like I said, should have been more of him. Reportedly, this was shot at the same mall as Chopping Mall, which, awesome. I love Chopping Mall, and while I was watching the film, I was like, yeah, this definitely looks like the mall in Chopping Mall. So, super cool. Super, super cool. And I'll kind of make a comment about that, kind of tying in with that at the end of my review. So the beginning of the film is very giallo-like, with the heavy breathing person dressed in black slowly stalking around. You can't see him, and then there's a stabbing that comes after that. And I was hoping it would be a little more giallo-like, but no, that's like basically where the giallo-like aspect stops, especially because they reveal who the killer is, like, immediately, the Phantom of the Mall. But yeah, I mean, I was digging how it was kind of giallo-esque in the beginning, and then they just kind of were like, oh, we're just doing that for like a quick scene, and now we're just blowing that all out of the water. So, and of course, the killer has to have half a mask. Obviously, he cuts off half of a mannequin's face and uses that for the half mask, because obviously this is derived from Phantom of the Opera, and it wouldn't be a Phantom of the Opera derived film unless someone had half a mask on, because that's the thing. Now, I will say that my favorite derivation of Phantom of the Opera is Phantom of the Paradise by Brian De Palma. If you haven't seen that one is awesome. It's from the 70s. It's very wonderfully done. Although I have not seen the very horror-driven version of Phantom of the Opera that has Robert Englund in it, I believe, as the Phantom. I do need to get to that at some point. Anyway, small diatribe on the side. You get the idea that everyone wants a job at this mall early on. It's bustling, it's hustling. You have the mayor there to talk about how awesome it is. You have the owner there to talk about how awesome it is, all the new things they're adding, all the cool things they're doing. And the fact that Melody is so concerned that she's not going to get a job because it seems so competitive. And then Susie, you see Susie, she does get a job, but the line of women waiting to apply for the same job that she was applying for, or numerous jobs there, just gives you that idea. This mall is hopping. It's new, it's fresh, it's got everything people want, it's hopping. Maybe nostalgic for malls, again. Susie says, I'll pass, after Buzz says that he won't spit in her ice cream. He tries to convince her to get some ice cream that he will just give her, and he's like, I won't spit in it. She's like, I'll pass. So the question is, does that mean she wants to spit in it? It's a weird, it was weirdly phrased to the point where, like, that's what I thought immediately. I was just like, oh, she wants him to spit in it. You know, just a little funny thing. Easy to see that Peter and Melody will end up teaming up to try and figure out what's going on, but it's also easy to see that they're going to end up falling in love, much to the chagrin of Eric, because, yeah, he was only living for one thing, really, and that's to get back with Melody. He was hoping that he could save her, he could be there to watch after her, and then she would accept him eventually for how he looks, because he's still the same person inside, kind of, even though now he's killed people. But the fact that she says no, and she's like, I love Peter, which I don't really think they laid the groundwork for her to actually be in love with Peter, although she is young, so you know how young people just throw the love term around and fall in love so easily. So maybe that's at play. But that's what sends him in that spiral. Like, that's what just undoes everything and just drives him into this rage and over the top. But I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. You do immediately love Buzz as a character. At least I did. I already talked about how much I love him, but he's just, like, fun. He's got that comedy relief that comes into the film. Great character. Needs more screen time. Maybe could have gotten his own film. I don't know. The face in the fan death is not bad. Obviously would have liked to see it more, but I don't think they had a huge budget to do that. But they do, show blood being sprayed from, the guy's face being shoved in the fan. But my question then is, it seems like Eric was mainly just killing people who kind of were tied into, like the ownership of the mall and the evilness of the mall and the fact that someone burned his house down and almost killed him. So why did he kill this first person? Like, that's what I don't understand. Oh, and also the person that got stabbed in the beginning, because they didn't seem to, like, really be tying into that, but then that shows you that, like, he's not a good guy, really. He's not fully a good guy. So, very conflicted on him. Although, you get the backstory, you understand his plight, and you sympathize with him throughout the film until the very end when you're just like, okay, he's obviously gone totally bad. You just know that the super pervert security guard will end up being dead. The same with Justin, who was the owner of the mall, Posner's son, because very typical for films in the 80s, horror films in the 80s, people who are bad people or people who do bad things usually end up getting killed by the killer. Sure enough, that's what ends up happening, and the deaths are pretty fun for the most part. I'll comment on the deaths. Very nice touch with the pervert security guard's eyes popping out after he gets crushed with that forklift. That was an okay scene at first, and then the eyes popping out is what really did it. Because I think he then, like, he forklifted him against the wall where, like, the electrical box was, and I think it was the electricity that made his eyeballs pop out. So at first I was like, this kill's not great, and then the eyeballs happen, and I'm like, okay, I'm into it. I like that. Very cool. When the killer hits Melody's attacker with a crossbow bolt, it makes you believe very solidly that Eric is the Phantom of the Mall, and he is protecting her, obviously. At first, you don't necessarily know that he's going to be there to protect her. You do obviously assume immediately, because of the title of the film, that it's Eric who is the Phantom of the Mall. But you don't know that what his motive is with killing and what he's trying to ultimately do until that moment where the guy tries to mug her and he gets shot with the crossbow bolt, and you're like, oh, okay, Eric is there to look after her. So he protects her then. Melody's dream that she has not long after that happens goes from sexy to scary very, very quickly, and I appreciate that. I thought it was pretty well done. Not a lot of dream sequences are that great. I think the kind of mixture of like pleasurable and sexy and then turning to horror, like it was good. It was pretty solid. Again, I miss arcades. That scene with Justin stealing the coins from the arcade. I miss arcades. Such a fun place to be. And when I watched Stranger Things, it made me also miss arcades when I was doing that. It is kind of funny, but also creepy when the killer's listening to a love ballad and watching footage of Melody just walking around the mall. Yeah, at that point, we're kind of like, okay, we understand that, like, he's still yearning for Melody. He's very forlorn. But it's, especially with how long the scene is, of him just, like, listening to this love ballad, which is a pretty decent sounding song, and just watching her walking around the mall, it's like, kind of creepy. Gives you a little bit of the idea that he's maybe not all there up here, which ends up being true. How did the guy get on top of the elevator? That's what I don't know. The guy who ended up being the killer, by the way, if you end up hearing someone like doing yard work, I apologize. It is what it is. Hopefully it doesn't get picked up because the microphone's typically pretty good. But anyway, the chase scene with Peter trying to get away from the guy who he sees in the, I think it was Sam Goody's. How did he get on top of the elevator? And also, let me point out that there was a scene of people on top of that same elevator. I think that same elevator looks like it in that same mall, in Chopping Mall. I thought that was interesting. But still, how did he get on top of the elevator? There wasn't time for him to do that. I don't see a way that he actually really could have done that. It's very weird. Big question, how did the eyeball get into the ice cream that Buzz gives to Susie? I don't understand that. Like, I understand they set it up with her passing off as a joke earlier when he put, like, the fake ear in there. But then there's the eyeball. Like, what happened there? I don't understand. Like, how did the eyeball get in there? And also, how is that something that Buzz did not notice? I don't think that was shown unless I looked away and they quickly showed that. You can tell me in the comments. The pianist being the mugger, didn't see that coming. I actually think that was kind of a solid reveal, where he goes to the bathroom, he kind of like takes his tux jacket off, and he has the blood shot exactly where the crossbow bolt went on the mugger. So I was like, that is solid surprise for me. And then the Cobra coming out of the toilet scene, totally ridiculous, but it does raise the question, and it made me think this. What would you do in that situation? You're in a bathroom, whether it's your home bathroom or a public bathroom, and a cobra literally comes up between your legs in a toilet looking right at you. The other question is, where did Eric get a cobra? They're not at the pet store that would be in the mall. Very weird. Don't get it. The escalator kill is a cool idea, but executed in a really crappy way. When Justin, has the rope thrown around his neck and then he's pulled by the escalator. I thought that could have been cool if he got kind of like shredded up more, or pop his head off at the end. Like, have the tension so tight, his head just pops right off. You did the eyeball popping. Pop a head off. Let's go. But they didn't do that. Probably budgetary issues. When Melody's telling Peter about the night Eric died, she says, this is her quote, "It was actually really nice. That night he gave me orchids." But how slowly she said it, I definitely thought she was gonna say, "It was actually really nice. That night he gave me oral." I really did. I'm sorry, my mind went to the gutter. It was something about the way she said it, the pacing, and how she was saying it. My mind just went there, and I was like, yeah, it sounds like a good night, especially for you, Melody. Good job. Especially back in the 80s, because that's probably not as common. I mean, I could be making things up. With Melody facing Peter talking to him in the car, how does the fake security guard sneak up on Peter and pull a gun? I didn't understand that, because they're in Peter's car, they're facing each other, and this dude sneaks up somehow without being seen by Melody, who's literally looking that direction, and comes over and pulls a gun and sticks his hand into the window without her saying anything or seeing it. Like, it's a so bad it's good film. That's what you end up chalking it up to, obviously, but it was just a very confusing thing, obviously. Very, very confusing to me. The car chase actually is pretty solid in this film. I appreciated the effort put forward on that, especially the part where Eric jumps on top of the fake security guard's car and was like, tussling, like trying to stay with it and take care of the guy. And then the fact that there's like an explosion and like a flaming car at the end. Pretty good. They put some good effort into this film. They truly, truly did. So I guess Eric has superhuman strength since he pushes the compactor door up. When he's in that fight with that security guard guy, well, fake security guard guy, and he like gets his head down where the compactor is, he hits the button and it starts coming down. He gets his hands up and he's able to push it back up. That says superhuman superhuman strength, because those things are very, very strong. There's a lot of pressure behind those things. Pause for horror hydration. Thank you. My throat gets dry during this stuff, but yeah. So he's got superhuman strength. How did that happen? Did the fire do it? Is it, I don't know, adrenaline? I don't really know what the deal is with that. I like how they give Eric a Freddy Krueger voice when he finally talks. Half his face kind of looks like Freddy Krueger's burns. Then they give him the actual Freddy Krueger sounding voice. I thought that was kind of funny. It makes him more sinister than I think maybe they wanted him to be sounding that way, but I appreciate it. Thought it was a little bit funny too. Eric only looks like a monster until Melody rejects him and then becomes that monster he looks like, because that's all he was living for. All he was living for at that point was gone. He was solely living for the idea of her finally, him saving her, looking out for her, saving her, her realizing that he's the same Eric he's always been, and her falling back in love with him and just falling right back into their relationship as it was. And at first you think maybe it is going to go that way, but then she just pulls this like, no, I'm in love with Peter. This guy I like just met. And it's just like, come on, man. Ridiculous. And because he's been scorned by his lover, he goes into a rage. Solid scene when Eric throws the mayor from the top floor out the window and onto a spike of sorts. That was cool, unexpected. I like how it's sticking through Morgan Fairchild and the amount of blood on it. Pretty nice. Down with it. Why did they sell flamethrowers at this mall, though? I mean, cool that they used a flamethrower. I like that. I like the thought on it. But why are they selling flamethrowers at this mall? I don't understand. Just another thing. Like, where'd the Cobra come from? Why is there a flamethrower there? Like, chalk it up to being a so bad it's good film. It's fine. Well, Eric in the end gets his revenge. Things didn't come out too great for him. The rest of him got burned. I'm assuming he's dead. We didn't get a sequel, so I'm guessing he's dead at that point. But he got his revenge, but at what cost? And I think that's kind of the point. Going along with the whole Phantom of the Opera thing, you got your revenge. You kind of got what you wanted in a sense, but at what cost? They could have left who the Phantom is a mystery until the end. Probably would have been better that way. I already said that at the beginning. The film actually, especially in the beginning of it, when he's kind of like picking people off, feels a lot like the film Intruder, which I think may also be from 1989. If you haven't seen Intruder, it's got Ted Raimi in it, Sam Raimi in it, Dan Hicks, and Dan Hicks is a lot of fun in it. And very briefly, Bruce Campbell, even though they give him like top billing in the posters, he's like barely in it. But Ted Raimi is fun in it, Sam Raimi's fun in it, and really Dan Hicks really sells that. So if you want a good double feature with Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge, I think Intruder would be a really good one. Obviously, also Chopping Mall, because it's shot in the same mall. If you just want the mall nostalgia double feature, that's a great one. And that leads me to my last point. Just me doing mental gymnastics watching this film. This film needed to be a sequel to Chopping Mall. Because think about that. It's just, and this could be like a cool series if someone were to make it now. Like, you take one mall and you make an anthology series of all these crazy things that go on in this mall. So wouldn't it have been cool if like Chopping Mall was the first film, and then they did Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge, and it happens at the same mall, and there's just all this crazy stuff going on at this mall. It's almost like it's in this like supernatural vortex of like terrible things that happen. So in addition to me thinking it should have been a sequel to Chopping Mall, I also think the film should have been done as a crossover with Slumber Party Massacre 2. Because think about that. And what really got me thinking that was that dream sequence with Melody, where it goes from like being fun and sexy to being like horror really quick. And thinking back to Slumber Party Massacre 2 with the Driller Killer in it, a lot of fun. That would be awesome. So let me know your thoughts on that. As a straight up film out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I mean, it's a 1.5 star film. But as a so bad it's good film, I give it 3.5 stars. I was between 3 and 3.5, but I'm gonna bump it to the 3.5 because there is some pretty fun, ridiculous stuff in this film, and I enjoyed it. So I don't know if I'd watch this a second time, but well, with someone who's never seen it, I definitely would. But on my own, might not watch it a second time. But it was definitely a lot of fun for one viewing. Let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments, good, bad, in between, and just give me a sentence or two telling me your total thoughts, why. Do me a quick favor and hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because I really appreciate that. It literally keeps me motivated to keep doing this stuff, and it is quick, painless, and costs you no money, so there's really not a reason not to do it, honestly. Very inconvenient. Also hit the notification bell button, because then you'll know when I'm putting out new videos, which I'm doing 4 a week, which is a good amount. But regardless, I really thank you for checking out this particular video, and until next time, keep it brutal.